Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good night, everybody. So this is I'm Zulfaqar Saadi. So I will become a speaker for this webinar. So if there is any problem with the volume of the event, you can use your headphone so that you can hear. You will not miss anything. So if you have any comments or opinion during the webinar, please don't be shy to add in the comment section. So since this is the first webinar, we will start exactly at 9. So the webinar is on the Borneo Constitutional Rights webinar. This is the webinar series number 1. There will be more webinar after this will be held based on different topic. Depending on the question or request from the viewer, I will make certain topic also if there is some comment or suggestion from the audience. So the title for the webinar tonight is What is Malaysia Agreement 1963? So this webinar can be watched live in my YouTube channel, which is Zulfaqar Saadi, the Constitutionalist. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so that you will not miss the next webinar. So our title tonight is What is Malaysia Agreement 1963? So this is Malaysia Agreement 1963. As you can see, the document that I presented here, this is the front page of Malaysia Agreement 1963. It is the title actually for this Malaysia Agreement is actually Agreement Relating to Malaysia. That is the exact title for this agreement. Agreement relating to Malaysia. But people already get used to Malaysia Agreement 1963, so we use Malaysia Agreement 1963. So this is an agreement concluded between the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Federation of Malaya, North Borneo, Sarawak, and Singapore. So in the front page, you will see this wording, these words in front of this Malaysia Agreement 1963. So why did I pick this topic about Malaysia Agreement 1963? The question is very simple. What is Malaysia Agreement 1963? Believe me, out there are still some people that don't know what is Malaysia Agreement 1963. They try to cite some document, I don't know what kind of thing they are citing. What this point. That is not Malaysia Agreement 1963. So to make things clear, I will show you Malaysia Agreement 1963. I will show you the copy, the original copy, and the copy from the United Nations. Wait for it. Okay. For the people that haven't seen what is Malaysia Agreement 1963, so this is Malaysia Agreement 1963. It has 235 pages. So if you find out there, people said from Blogspot or something that have 5 pages, 4 pages, that is not Malaysia Agreement 1963. Malaysia Agreement 1963 have 235 pages. So this is Malaysia Agreement. This is the front page. And next to it, After that, it will explain the article of the Malaysia Agreement. There is 11 article of Malaysia Agreement 1963, and then it will go to the who signatories of the Malaysia Agreement, who signed the Malaysia Agreement, the signatories, and then it will go to Annex A until Annex K. So this is usually people will find this document online. You can just Google Malaysia Agreement 1963 PDF. You can download it. So refer to the right document. This is Malaysia Agreement 1963. IGC report is different document. Cobalt Commission is different document. Federal Constitution is different document. Malaysia Agreement is Malaysia Agreement. So I show you the one that I take from United Nations, this one. So this is United Nations that was launched by the United Kingdom in the United Nations on 21st September 1971. So this is Malaysia Agreement that was launched in the United Nations. It was written in Malay, it was written in English and French and Malay, three language. You can see this is in English, and then suddenly it was in French. So because Malaysia Agreement was launched in United Nations, they put it there in English and French language. And there is Malay language as well. I will show you later. So it is all here. The number of the document is, it is volume 750. The number of document is 10760. And this is okay, this is the Malay version of Malaysia Agreement. You see here, Malay text. So if you don't know how to read English, there is no excuse for you to not understand Malaysia Agreement. There is in Malay as well. Malaysia Agreement written in Malay, but the annex is not in Malay. Annex is all in English because Article 11, Article 11 of Malaysia Agreement, it specify that the annex will be all in English. Only the agreement will be in Malay text. So this is also in Malay. It is provided. You can find this one in the United Nations Treaty Collection. So make sure you refer to the right document. This is Malaysia Agreement 1963. So let me simplify. What is Malaysia Agreement 1963? We go to the next slide. Okay, this is the agreement relating to Malaysia. So if you see what the information given in the United Nations Treaty Collection, UNTC, this is from United Nations. Saya tak tulis sendiri. I didn't write this by myself. It is written in the United Nations. So the registration number for Malaysia Agreement launched in the United Nations is 10760. That is the registration number. And the title is Agreement Relating to Malaysia. So we usually call it Malaysia Agreement 1963. The participant of the Malaysia Agreement is Federation of Malaya, North Borneo, Sarawak, Singapore, and United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And it was submitted by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to the United Nations on 21st September 1970. This Malaysia Agreement was signed in London on 9 July 1963. We all must remember this date. Malaysia Agreement was signed in London on 9 July 1963. And the enforcement date of Malaysia Agreement is on 16 September 1963 in accordance with Article 2 itself in the Malaysia Agreement 1963. So the authentic text of Malaysia Agreement is in Malay and in English. But there is another copy translation of French in the United Nations as well. But the authentic text is in Malay and in English. In English, the whole text is in English, is provided from the agreement, from the article up to the Annex A until Annex K. It's all in English. But the Malay text only provide for the agreement from the Article 1 until Article 9 and the signatories. That is all in Malay. The Annex of Malaysia Agreement is not in Malay. So the agreement type, this is important that we all must understand. Agreement type of Malaysia Agreement is multilateral. It is not a unilateral agreement. If unilateral, it's between two persons only. But multilateral agreement, it is more than two persons. So we have Federation of Malaya, North Borneo, Sarawak, Singapore, and United Kingdom. There is 5 participants. So it is a multilateral agreement. So there is some crucial information that you must understand. Unilateral agreement will have different standing. Multilateral agreement, it will have its own standing as well. So you can download this Malaysia Agreement out in the United Nations Treaty Collection. So other than Malaysia Agreement 1963, if the people know how to look this information, they will know what I'm trying to tell here. In the Malaysia Agreement 1963, there is also agreement amending the agreement of 9 July 1963. So Malaysia Agreement have been amended once, only once, on 28 August 1963, and it was signed in Singapore. On 28 August 1963, Malaysia Agreement have been amended only once. What have been amended is enforcement date, uh, operation date of the Malaysia Day in Article 2 of the Malaysia Agreement 1963. That is all the amendment that have been done to Malaysia Agreement 1963. And another agreement that people, so before we go to that one, agreement amending the agreement of Malaysia Agreement 1963 was made by all the signatories from United Kingdom, Federation of Malaya, Singapore, Sarawak, and North Borneo. They all signed this agreement. After that, Malaysia Agreement can be amended. And there is another agreement relating to Malaysia, which is supplementary agreement relating to Malaysia, bearing the registration number of 10761. This is also agreement relating to Malaysia. This is a supplementary agreement made between United Kingdom, Federation of Malaya, and Singapore on 11 September 1963. So people who have a very catchy eyes will understand what I'm trying to tell here. There is a way where Malaysia Agreement can be amended. Either you can do it through amendment or supplementary agreement relating to Malaysia, which has been done by Singapore, Malaya, and United Kingdom on 11 September 1963. But tonight we focus our discussion on just try to explain simply what is Malaysia Agreement 1963 is all about. So the first page of Malaysia Agreement 1963, you will see the registration number is 10760. It was made between United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and Federation of Malaya, North Borneo, Sarawak, and Singapore. So this is agreement relating to Malaysia. So there will be with annex, there is annex attached to Malaysia Agreement 1963, Annex A until Annex K, which include Constitution of the State of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore, Annex B, C, and D, Malaysia Immigration Bill, and agreement between Government of Federation of Malaya and Singapore on common market and financial arrangement. So it was signed in London on 9 July 1963. In this agreement also, there is agreement amending the above mentioned agreement made in Singapore. So basic information that we must understand about Malaysia Agreement 1963 is it is an international agreement. It was registered by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on 21st September 1970, bearing the registration number 10760. So Malaysia Agreement is international agreement. And it is a multilateral agreement. This is crucial information. Some people said when Singapore separated from Malaysia, Malaysia Agreement is what? Terburai, void, because Singapore is going separated from Malaysia. But one of the agreement that cannot be used here for that Singapore idea that they said Malaysia Agreement will be void because of Singapore separated from Malaysia. In a multilateral agreement, you need all the signatory to agree that Malaysia Agreement is void before, so that it can be void. If only one partner is going out, it will not automatically void. It doesn't work like that. This is a multilateral agreement. So it was signed on that will be a different kind of discussion on maybe for another webinar. So it was Malaysia Agreement was signed on 9 July 1963 in London and brought into operation on 16 September 1963 based on Article 2. So it must be remember, it was signed on 9 July and we agree on 9 July that Malaysia Agreement will be brought into operation, will have effect of law on 16 September 1963. So it have 235 pages. It's not just a mere 4 pages. It's not just you take one word, take there. No, it is 235 pages. So many of our rights is incorporated in the Malaysia Agreement. And it have 11 articles and 11 annex from Annex A to Annex K. Now we look at the main thing provided in the articles of Malaysia Agreement 1963. It is Article 1 until Article 11, not Article 9, until Article 11. So Article 1, it talks about the establishment of the Federation of Malaysia, where the colonies of North Borneo, Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaya, and then the federation thereafter shall be called Federation of Malaysia. It's talk about who federated that formed the new Federation of Malaysia. And it talks about how the characteristic of Federation of Malaysia will be met, will be constructed based on the constitutional arrangement annexed to this Article 1. And Article 2 is talking about Malaysia Act 1963, number 26 of 1963. Article 2 require that the Parliament of the Federation of Malaya to amend the constitution and incorporate Malaysia Agreement 1963 Annex A into the present Federal Constitution of Federation of Malaya at that time, and then it will change into a new Federal Constitution of Federation of Malaysia. And then Article 3, it is about the Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore State Constitution, Order in Council 1963. So the Queen, the British Crown, make an Order in Council in 1963 to provide for the state constitution of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore, so that we will become a state, not colonies anymore. So this is the exact wording. I didn't write this suka-suka. This is the exact wording. The Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore State Constitution Order in Council 1963. And then we have Article 4, Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35. So this Article 4 was passed in the Parliament of the British in Westminster. It was passed in House of Commons, passed in the House of Lords, and get the royal assent from the Queen. So this is Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35. It provides for the transfer of sovereignty of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore to Malaysia. Article 4, Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35. Listen carefully. It provides for transfer of sovereignty of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore to Malaysia, not to Malaya. A lot of people confused or, I don't know, ignorant about this one. Our sovereignty was transferred to Malaysia, not to Malaya. And then Article 5, Immigration Act 1959, 63, Act 155. It was passed by the Parliament of Malaya as well. These have a very close association with Cobalt Commission. Immigration Act 1959 has been amended to put the rights of immigration power to Sabah and Sarawak. If there is no Immigration Act, if there is no amendment on Immigration Act, there will be no Malaysia. Because Cobalt Commission can only start to work because Malaya already agree on Immigration Act on Article 5, this one. If they didn't agree, there will be no Malaysia. That's why nobody can touch immigration power of Sabah and Sarawak. If you touch that one, automatically Sabah and Sarawak doesn't agree with Malaysia anymore. Okay, that will be maybe a good topic for another discussion. Okay, now we look at Article 6. It is agreement with annex and exchange of letters on external defense and mutual assistance. This is between Federation of Malaya and British. This is a defense agreement. And then this defense agreement, when Malaysia was formed, this responsibility on this agreement of external defense and mutual assistance was transferred to Malaysia. And then this agreement has been replaced by 5 power defense arrangement in 1970, I think 1970. 1971, I think. So that is on defense arrangement. And then we have Article 7. We have Sarawak Compensation and Retiring Benefits Order in Council 1963. And this another one is the North Borneo Compensation and Retiring Benefits Order in Council 1963. And this is about the retirement and all the people that, from the British that working in Sarawak and North Borneo at the time. The scheme of work related to British official that is working in Sabah and Sarawak. And then we have Article 8, which is related to report of the Intergovernmental Committee, IGC report. So Article 8 is talk about IGC report. And then Article 9, we have an agreement between the government of the Federation of Malaya and Singapore on common market and financial arrangement. So this is agreement between Malaya and Singapore only on common market and financial arrangement. And then we have Article 10, which is arrangement with respect to broadcasting and television in Singapore. This is also between Federation of Malaysia with Singapore. And then Article 9, it is about the language of the agreement. What is the language that have precedent in the Malaysia Agreement 1963? And everybody agree that English will be more main language for the Malaysia Agreement 1963. So as you can see here, after the Article 1 until Article 11, there is a signatories of the Malaysia Agreement 1963. Agreement type is multilateral. So there will be a United Kingdom, Federation of Malaya, North Borneo, Sarawak, and Singapore. All the representative of each of these government sign the Malaysia Agreement on behalf of their state. And then I provide here in English and in Malay. So no excuse, you also understand. If people who can read in English, people who can read in Malay, you understand these people on behalf of their government signed the Malaysia Agreement 1963. And why it was written, all the annex written in English, it's because of Article 11 of Malaysia Agreement 1963. It said that this agreement shall be signed in the English and Malay language, except that the annex shall be in the English language only. In case of doubt, the English text of the agreement shall prevail. So in case if there is agreement or what is the meaning of certain article, certain section of Malaysia Agreement 1963. So the English text will prevail. People will use English text. Don't tell me about this language supremacy of Malay language. You see, the agreement was signed by Persekutuan Tanah Melayu also, Federation of Malaya. Your government also agree that this agreement, the English text will be used as it shall prevail over the Malay text. Your government also agree. So if you don't agree with me, you ask your government first. You ask your government why they agree that English will be used in this case, if there is any doubt. And then now we look at Annex A until Annex K. So Annex A of Malaysia Agreement is Malaysia Bill. That is Malaysia Bill. It has 77 pages, not just mere 4 pages, 1 pages, what you take from Blogspot. So 70 pages of rights and safeguard for the Borneo State, Sabah and Sarawak, and for the formation of Malaysia was provided there. And it has 96 sections and 6 schedules. So please look at all this agreement. If you have certain interest on certain topic, you try to find it in the Malaysia Bill, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963. And then we have Annex B, the Constitution of the State of Sabah, 27 pages. Annex C, the Constitution of the State of Sarawak, 24 pages. Annex D, Constitution of the State of Singapore, 42 pages. And then we have Annex E, Immigration Bill, 11 pages. Annex F, with its agreement with Annex and exchange of letter on external defense and mutual assistance, which has been replaced by 5-power defense arrangement. It has 13 pages. And Annex G, Sarawak Compensation and Retiring Benefit Order in Council, and North Borneo Compensation and Retiring Benefit Order in Council 1963. It has 19 pages. And Annex H, Form of Public Officer Agreement in respect of Sabah and Sarawak, 4 pages. Annex I, this is on Singapore, 4 pages. The same thing, Annex H and Annex I is on British officer that is working in Sabah and Sarawak at that time. And then we have Annex J, with its agreement between the government of the Federation of Malaya and Singapore on common market and financial arrangement, 6 pages. Annex K, arrangement with respect to broadcasting and television in Singapore, 1 pages. So all of this is 235 pages. The main thing that you should look is Annex A to Annex E, which is on Malaysia Bill and the Constitution of Sabah, Sarawak and Singapore, and the Immigration Bill. The focus mainly usually in Annex A, which have 96 sections, 6 schedules, 77 pages. Not just mere what, point this, point this. What a joke. Our forefather is very, very, cannot underestimate these people. They put a lot of works to put our rights and safeguard in the Malaysia Agreement 1963. Very detailed. And then we look at the relationship between Article and Annex in Malaysia Agreement 1963. Article 1 is talking about the formation of the new Federation of Malaysia. It formed Federation of Malaysia by colonies of North Borneo, Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaysia, and the new federation thereafter is called Malaysia. Article 1 is related with Annex A of Malaysia Agreement, and it's related with Malaysia Act 1963, number 26 of 1963, and it was then incorporated into the Federal Constitution. And then we have Article 2. It's related to Malaysia Act 1963, number 26 of 1963 as well, which is passed in the Parliament of Federation of Malaya. It is Act of Parliament of the Federation of Malaya. You know, all this agreement, if it first must, we all know that Malaysia Agreement is international agreement. There is 2 kinds of law, you must know. There is international agreement and domestic law, international law and domestic law. This domestic law is the act of parliament or state constitution or ordinance passed by the state government or act of parliament passed by the parliament. This act of parliament have a force of law in Malaysia. If all this Malaysia agreement is not passed in the parliament, it will not have force of law. Our rights will not have any force of law. That's why there is Malaysia Act 1963, number 26 of 1963. It was passed by the parliament so that it will have a force of law in Malaysia. And then Article 3 is the Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore State Constitution Order in Council. It was passed by order in council by the British monarch. It was Annex B, Annex C, and Annex D. We have our own state constitution. It is a way that we can look how we can actually fight for our rights. You improve our state constitution. It was given by the British. Malaya have nothing to do with our state constitution. Federal government have nothing to do with our state constitution. Our state constitution was literally given by the British for us to use. So you use our state constitution, improve it, make a lot of ordinance under Article 77 of Federal Constitution, any residual power, make ordinance out of it. Take all the power for us, as long as it is within our rights. But I don't know how our politicians are thinking. They don't know how to use their own power. And then we have Article 4, Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35. This is passed in the Parliament of United Kingdom with transfer sovereignty of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore from British. We are colony of British at that time. They transfer it to Malaysia, not to Malaya. They transfer it to Malaysia. That is a big difference. And then Article 5, Immigration Act, related to Annex E of Malaysia Agreement. And then Article 6, it's agreement on the external defense and mutual assistance, which is Annex F. And it has been replaced with 5 power defense arrangement. This is between New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and British. And then Article 7, we have Sarawak compensation. This is compensation for the British official working in Sabah and Sarawak at that time, Annex H and Annex I. And then Article 8, it's related to report of the IGC report. Very important, Article 8. And then Article 9, it's related to agreement of Federation of Malaya and Singapore on common market, which is Annex J. And we have Article 10, agreement with respect to broadcasting and television in Singapore related to Annex K. And we have Article 9, Article 11, which is the language of the agreement, which is, I have said before, the one that take precedent is the English language. So you can see this one. Any topic that you are interested about, you can pick. It's easy to see. If you want to know what is Malaysia, characteristic of Federation of Malaysia, you look at Article 1. Article 1 will lead you to Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963. It will lead you to Malaysia Act 1963, number 26, 1963. And then it will lead you to Federal Constitution. You can see the law. You can see how it's connect with each other. Okay, now I want to bring the audience to one of the statement that usually people, it's everywhere, this kind of statement. Federation of Malaya has become Federation of Malaysia. Malaya sudah jadi Malaysia. Is it? Betul ke? They said Federation of Malaya 1957, when Malaysia was formed, has become Federation of Malaya 1963. Is it correct? I don't think so. If this statement is correct, so where exactly in the Malaysia Agreement 1963 that mentioned that Malaya has become Malaysia? A lot of people said Malaya have become Malaysia. So tell me, in 235 pages of Malaysia Agreement 1963 or in any act of parliament in Malaysia Act 1963, tell me where exactly that said Malaya has become Malaysia? This is, I dare you to tell me where exactly that said Malaya has become Malaysia. You will not find it. I have working on it I've read Malaysia Agreement for 5 years, 7 years. I can't even remember since 2013. There is nothing there that said Malaya has become Malaysia. So it is not true. So what is the truth? The truth is, we look at Article 1, they're talking about Federation of Malaysia. It tells you about the character, identity and characteristic of Federation of Malaysia. When we look at Article 1 of Federation of Malaysia, it said that colonies of North Borneo, Sabah, and Sarawak and State of Singapore federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaya, and it will become states of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore. Once we federated with State of Malaya, we change our status here. That is another information here. We change our status from colonies to states. So we are no more colonies when we federated with Federation of Malaya. That is the status. We change our status from colonies to states. So how we are federated with Federation of Malaya? In accordance with the constitutional instrument to this agreement. And the federation shall after be called Malaysia. So how we are federated with Federation of Malaya is based on the constitutional instrument. So the constitutional instrument annexed to Malaysia Agreement is Annex A, Malaysia Bill. We can look at Section 4. The federation shall be known in Malay and English by the name Malaysia. So the states of the federation, the new federation will be State of Malaya, Borneo State, and State of Singapore. So this is the characteristic and identity of the Federation of Malaya. It's the heading there said the name, states, and territories of the federation. So if somebody asks you what is Malaysia, you refer to this section. It will tell you what is the name, state, and territory of the federation. If you ask politician, your adun, your MP, what is Malaysia? If they doesn't refer to this section or Article 1 of Federal Constitution, they don't know what is Malaysia. If you change Article 1, this Section 4 have become Article 1 of Federal Constitution, you change the meaning of Malaysia, the characteristic and identity of Malaysia. So we are keep changing. We are like chameleon. If you keep amending Article 1, Malaysia will become like chameleon. It keep changing. The first day we are called Malaysia, and then second day Malaysia, but maybe you become, I don't know, different cases of identity. So don't do that. Don't change easily the characteristic of Malaysia. Okay, just a simple reminder. If in Malaysia Agreement 1963, all the in Malaysia Bill, Annex A, we call number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there, we call it section. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, the name and state of the federation, Section 5, Section 6, until 96 section. We call it section. In Federal Constitution is article 1, Article 2, Article 3. All this section in Malaysia Agreement will be inserted in the Federal Constitution as article. So in Malaysia Agreement, it is called section. So it's very easy to know that the people that doesn't get Malaysia Agreement 1963, if they said this article, this paragraph, this, what the heck? I know that you doesn't get Malaysia Agreement, because if you refer to Malaysia Agreement 1963, you refer to section 1, 2, 3, section 159, section 160. Use the right wording so that everybody will not get confused. So another argument is that Malaysia is not become Malaysia is when the Westminster passed the Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35, they provide a transfer of sovereignty to the new Federation of Malaysia. It doesn't say that Malaya has become Malaysia. British also doesn't say that one. They doesn't say this. I don't know where they get this idea of Malaya have become Malaysia. British only passed Malaysia Act 1963, Chapter 35. They transfer the sovereignty of their colonies at that time. They transfer it to Malaysia, not to Malaya. There is nothing in the agreement that said our sovereignty have been transferred to Malaya. There is nothing telling something like that. Our sovereignty has been transferred to Malaysia because we agree to form Malaysia. And another argument, this might be new information for somebody. For example, we take a look at Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. We compare it to Federation of Malaya. When Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland, this is in Africa. This is also British colony. So when they become independent, there is order in council that provide for the constitution for the independent, and the Act of Parliament. The Act of Parliament and order in council provide for the independent of Rhodesia and Nyasaland Federation when they become independent. But when this federation terburai, there is no more, they doesn't agree to federated anymore. British passed this another order in council and Act of Parliament. They call it Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland Dissolution Order in Council. So when British colony become independent, they agree to federated, to form a federation. The British will pass a order in council. And then if that federation is the no more terburai, there will be order dissolution order in council for that one. So for the people that said Malaya has become Malaysia, they are telling us that Malaya, there is no more Malaya, they said, they become Malaysia. But where is Federation of Malaya dissolution order in council? You know, when Malaya become independent, they have Federation of Malaya Independent Act 1957. It is passed in Westminster in 31st July 1957. Look at the date here. Maybe later I will tell you what is the meaning of all this date. Malaya become independent on 31st August. So the Parliament of the British already passed the independence of Malaya on 31st July 1957. The important is enforcement date. It doesn't matter if you are colony at that time. If you sign anything, you are colony at the time. What important is the enforcement date. So Federation of Malaya Agreement 1957 was signed on 5 August 1957. They are still colony. When Malaya signed Malaya Federation of Malaya Agreement 1957, Malaya is still colonies. So if there are still colonies, some people said, if you are colonies, you cannot sign agreement. So this is invalid also, Federation of Malaya Agreement. It was signed before 31st August. All agreement that led to the independence of the British colonies, it was signed before they become independent during their colonies. What important is enforcement date in the agreement. And then there is also Federation of Malaya Independent Order in Council in 1957, passed by the British after Malaya become independent. But they said Malaya has become Malaysia, so there is no more Malaya. If there is no more Malaya, where is the dissolution order in council? If you look at the British law, there is still Malaya Independent Act, there is still Malaya Order in Council, it's still there. There is no dissolution order in council that said Malaya doesn't exist anymore. So it's proof here that Malaya is still there. Malaya is not become Malaysia. Malaya still exists. Look at the law. Follow the law. So we can conclude here based on the Article 1 of Malaysia Agreement 1963 and Section 4 that tell the characteristic and the identity of Malaysia, that Federation of Malaya is one of the component states of the Federation of Malaysia. There are 3 states of the Federation, which is States of Malaya, Borneo State, and State of Singapore. You see, the agreement was signed by Federation of Malaya. Look at the wording. Don't change the wording. Don't just say suka-suka this wording. When Malaysia Agreement was signed, it was signed on behalf of Federation of Malaya. But when Malaysia was formed, the identity has been changed to States of Malaya. I will tell you later what is that mean. Maybe later, maybe another webinar. It's a very long topic. What does it mean? Because it is all have relation with United Nations Resolution 1541. Because I give you a simple information like when Malaya federated with the Borneo State, Sabah and Sarawak, we are federated based on the integration. And state of Malaya, when they federated with state of Singapore, also based on integration. But what does it mean by federation? Federation can mean many things. It is how you federated. If Sabah and Sarawak, they federated with Malaya based on this integration in United Nations Resolution 1541. And Singapore federated with Malaya based on term of merger. I think a lot of people doesn't stress this enough. They are state of Malaya and Singapore, they are federated based on the term of merger. Still integration, but they have term of merger. And Sabah and Sarawak based on the IGC report. Okay, I think that's all. Almost it is already 48 minutes. If you have any question, I will check the question. I think there is some question there. From Azibul Adnan. Is the government of Malaysia obligated to implement everything in Chapter 3 of IGC according to Article 8 of Malaysia Agreement 1963? If so, what are the repercussions of not implementing them? So this is related to Article 8 of Malaysia Agreement 1963. Article 8 of Malaysia Agreement 1963, it said about this question, Chapter 3 of IGC report and Article 8 of Malaysia Agreement 1963. It's not just Chapter 3. It's talk about Annex A and Annex B. Yes, the simple question is, does government of Malaysia obligated to implement everything in Chapter 3? Yes, after the government of Malaya, government of Sabah, government of Sarawak bring it up to the Federation of Malaysia. Do you understand? Based on Chapter 3, this Article 8, the one that bring this issue to implement IGC report is the government of Malaya, Sabah, Sarawak. It doesn't say three of them go together. Even Sarawak itself can tell there is some term in IGC report that need to be implemented. They can bring it up. How? It can be either, that is the thing about Malaysia. It's flexible. All the thing about Malaysia is flexible because we are formed based on UN Resolution 1541. It is based on the very flexible nature of decolonization process. It's very flexible. So you can, the British through Article 8, they provide many mechanisms on how Sabah, Sarawak, and Malaya can bring the terms and the IGC report. You can do it politically, exchange of letter also you can do it. You can also do based on exchange of letter. You can also make a joint public statement. You can make another agreement, or you can use a constitutional mechanism, pass it in the state government, make a bill in state government maybe, or make an amendment in the federal constitution. It's up to us. It is up to government of Sarawak, Sabah, Sarawak individually, not collectively. You can do it collectively or individually to implement the term in IGC report. That is IGC report, how to implement Article 8. Some people said, oh, when they see the wording Malaya, Sabah, Sarawak, no, it doesn't say you can do it collectively. You can do it collectively, or you can do it maybe between Sabah and Sarawak and then bring it to the parliament or their own state government first and then go to the federal government. There is a constitutional way to do that. I know the constitutional way, but it's very long discussion. And then, yeah, if you want to do it, ask your state government to do it. Sarawak can do it individually. Sabah also can do it individually. So very flexible approach. The British provide a very flexible decolonization process for Sabah and Sarawak. I think we are already 51 minutes. There is no more question. So Thank you for watching. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Zulfaqar Saadi, the Constitutionalist, so that you will not miss any live webinar. Or if you have any question or suggestion or opinion after this live stream, you can add it in the comment section. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Happy holiday, happy Cap Gome, I think tonight. See you. Assalamualaikum.